Hi, my name is Sergio. You can call me Serge, um, or you can call me Vikingo, as you can find me on the cycling fantasy group. And I and my wife, we were unable to find a good tutorial for cycling fantasy or the cycling fantasy app. And we just wanted to put something out there so other people could join in and figure out how it works and jump on. Let me be very clear that we are not true cycling fans. We are from Texas. There's not exactly a lot of pro racing here in Texas, and so for whatever reason, my wife just loves pro racing, and I've got my commuter Trek back here, and I do a little bit of triathlons and some little bit of riding with the guys, but nothing serious. And she really picked it up, and this has become a relationship builder for me and my wife. 15 years later, or whatever, 14 years later, 13 years later, whatever she tells me it is, and just wanted to show you how it works. So hope you enjoy how it works. And if this video works, then maybe we'll just keep going through the 2020 cycling season. Our plan is to do the big three races, and I'll explain how that works in just a second. So you see here at the bottom of the page that I have the Cycling Fantasy app. I'm going to be speaking specifically about this app. I know there are other fantasy cycling software and online stuff out there. This one is the one that I found that is easiest to use, and it is simple, and my wife likes the pictures and everything else. So let me tell you why we like this one. So at the very bottom you have your events that are coming up. You have news that tells you what's going on in the peloton. You have the user rankings, and so we haven't totally figured this out, but this looks like individuals who have put teams together. Don't know how often they get put together, but clearly whoever Nguyen is, and it's the end of January right now, and this guy's already almost 1,000 points up. So maybe it's a whole seasonal thing. I think it'd be kind of cool if you could figure out a way to compete, jump in the middle of the season and compete, but that's where we are. And then you've got your riders. So here is the list of riders, and Roglic is at the top, so you have to assume that this is from last year. Obviously, Bernal is there, who obviously won the Tour. So you have to assume the majority of this is from last year, and so it's going to get cleared out, or maybe it's a previous 12 months. I don't know. Again, we are sharing our experience as we go along, and so I want to share that with you as we learn it. And here are all the riders, right? So here's the top 25 per the point system that occurs in the fantasy. And then at the very end, you've got your own page, and I'll talk about this in a second. My current favorite rider right now is Mads Pedersen, who you pick from the list, and that's just because I personally believe that what he did at Worlds was just insane, and that's why he's our favorite. So how does it work? Well, on your profile page here in the corner, there is a FAQ right here in the middle, FAQ on how does it work. And so you go to the FAQ, you click on the how does it work, and you get points per stage per event, right? So if you pick a rider and they're in the first position, you get 45 points, and then you get 25 points and 22 points, and so on. And so if you continue down the how does it work thing, you see that there's additional points for time trials and for mountain and sprint and classification and youth. And so all of a sudden, this can seem really, really daunting. It can seem really, really challenging and confusing. But as my wife has found out throughout the entire 2019 season, the deeper you get into all of this, the better you understand what's happening in the breakaways and in the pelotons and what a defensive position looks like and all of this kind of stuff. So if you're brand new and you're just checking this out and you don't know it all, don't worry about it. Right? You'll figure it out as we go along. Let me pop out of profile for a second and talk about the races. And so in our house, let me go to the trophies real quick. Up here at the top, you see general. You see monuments, cobblestones, Ardennes, the big three, Tokyo because it's an Olympic year, and so on. And so my wife and I have turned around, and a couple of the other guys, and said, hey, we are going to compete on the big three. And so when we look at our personal group, that's the one that in our case is going to matter, right? Maybe we'll do Tokyo and there'll be bragging rights and such, but we're going to do the big three in 2020, and that's the one that's going to count. General, it seems that we're already behind the curve here, so the odds of coming back and winning or doing well with these guys winning, like, yeah, okay, so whatever. The monuments are probably the big one-day races. There they are, Milano, Rhone, Paris-Roubaix, that kind of thing. But as far as this podcast goes, we'll talk about the other stuff, but we'll talk more than anything about the big three and how the big three is going this year. And by the big three, we mean the Giro, the Vuelta, and obviously the Tour, each of which are individual events, right? So here are the events, and today is March 31st, and we are going to do both the men's, this is the women's race up here at the top, as well as the men's Cadel Evans race tomorrow. And the missus and I are big fans of Mitchelton Scott, as you'll find out. But the great thing about this, the absolute most fantastic piece of using this app, apart from playing the game, is that it gives you all the stage information, right? So, I mean, this is just fantastic stuff. I don't know that you can zoom in. Can you zoom in? No, I don't think so. But you can see what the race actually looks like. And so clearly, this is a race that favors the sprinters. It looks relatively flat. There's a couple of pops here. You assume that Impey is going to try to destroy the peloton or break it apart in the middle of the race. And if he doesn't, then the sprinters are probably going to win this race, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the women's here, the women's race here. And so here's the women's race. We'll talk about the men's in a second. And so you can pick from the stages and you can select your team. Here are all the racers that we believe are going to race or that have registered for the race. And you can see that we're real heavy Mitchelton Scott fans, right? And go Amanda Spratt. There's a lot of talk about Jessica Roberts as a young rider who may come out and do some damage here. And so Anna doesn't appear to be racing, and that's fine. But let's talk about the boys. Let's talk about the men's tomorrow. So I go to the tomorrow's race, and I look at the start list. Or you know what? Before we look at the start list, let's look at the stages. There's one stage. It looks relatively flat. There's a couple of small climbs in there at the end that might make a difference if someone wants to break the peloton apart, and that's where Impey might do something, because he didn't do as well in the Tour of Australia there on the last day. That was heartbreaking for us as fans, but whatever. And obviously Viviani and you can see Viviani and Ewan there at the finish line from last year. So there's a sprint race. Here's the start list. Well, who do you want? Here's everybody who's going to compete. And so you can look through the start list. You can go back and select the team. And, Viviani won it last year. We're just learning this. I selected Viviani as my sprinter. Now, down here at the bottom, I am going to eliminate my entire team as I scroll through. Luke Rowe, Caleb Ewan, and I'm just going to take my team off. And you can see down at the bottom that there are the number of riders and the number of credits are changing, right? So you have in this race a $5,000 credit, and from that you can pick whomever you want. There's Mads Peterson, right? I'm a big fan of Mads Peterson. You see my 5,000 credits. I pick up Mads, and $4,400 is what I have left. Okay, well, I like Viviani. I've always liked Viviani. He seems like a relatively humble guy. I'm probably wrong on that, but Elia, good luck. So I'm going to buy Elia. Elia is particularly expensive, right? It's $1,200 or 1,200 points. Sam Bennett, I think my wife is picking up Sam Bennett, so I'm going to let him go. And Ewan was just amazing last week in Australia. Where is he? So I'm going to pick up Ewan. Now I'm down to $2,000, but I have 3 out of 9 riders. I still need 6 more riders. What are we going to do? Well, I need people who are relatively cheap. I would love to pick up Daryl Impey as a maybe. Let's try and see what happens. So I've got $1,000 left, and I need 4 riders to go. So let's pick up a bunch of 200 guys. 200, 200, 200. I pick up the Mitchelton Scott guys because I'm a fan. I need 2 more riders. I cannot pick up another 400-point rider because I need 2 more 2 hundos. And at this point, you can just kind of pick your favorites. Uh, Guys that are probably not going to do anything. Richie Port's too expensive. Where is, and this point, you know, we start to pick up Americans because we're from the US and these guys are probably not going to do anything. Who did I have a second ago? I had, um, where's Hamilton? Who did I have? It wasn't Piccoli. It was, well, you get the point. I got to pick up 2 more guys. So let's just pick up a couple of guys here. Who did I have a second ago? Oh, I had Luke Rowe. Where is Luke Rowe? He's a U.S. team, so I'll pick up a 2 hundo here, just kind of random. Um, and where did Luke Rowe go? There he is, Luke Rowe. Because what are the odds? So now you can see that my credits are at 0, and down here at the bottom, my riders, I have selected 9 of 9. So I click Save. Selection saved. Your team is ready to compete. So now I'm ready, and we just have to wait till tomorrow. I click at my team at the top, and there's my team. I've got 1, 2 sprinters, 3 if you consider Impy to be a sprinter. Mads Peterson, just because we like the guy. And then a bunch of 200-point dudes that are probably going to be workhorses during the race. You can do whatever you want here and pick whatever team you want, and then we see what happens. I hope that has been fun for you. If you've enjoyed it and you're on this app, you can find me like up here at the top where it says @Vikingo. Throw me onto your teams, and you know we are going to do this through the 2020 season and see what happens. Good luck. Enjoy. I hope you do well, and here's to the 2020 cycling season.